Hi, everybody. Thank you for your patience as we work through some of these technical issues. I know there are a few of you that still don't have the presentation. We're going to get started, but we're going to go slow, and we're going to say which slide we're on. So as soon as you get it, you can catch up with us. And please do keep communicating with Morgan in the chat window because we do want to make sure that you can participate. So everybody, I'm going to start. Welcome to the Customer Engagement Initiative webinar. Thank you for joining us today. We're actually going to go first and see who is going to be presenting today. I'm going to introduce everybody. So my name is Kate Dave. I'm the VP of Marketing. And I'll be our moderator today, so I'll be sort of guiding us through the presentation. Tara Irvin, a Troop Program Manager, will be presenting. Nicole Franco, Director of IT. Megan Ferlin, our CEO. Helen Allen, Director of Business Services. Sarah Martinez, Episodic Volunteer Manager. And Leanne Stivers, Project Management Officer. So that's who all will be speaking, and I'm also going to go through our agenda briefly so you'll have a sense of what we'll be talking about. So tonight we're going to be talking about the Customer Engagement Initiative. Tara and Nicole are going to kick that off. Then Megan will be talking about our journey as Girl Scouts of Western Washington. Then Tara and Nicole will be back to talk about the technology in more detail. And then Sarah and Helen will go on with a presentation, part of the presentation called Bigger Than Technology. And finally, Leanne Stivers will be doing a project overview, so everyone will know a little bit about that. Okay, so, also I did want to say, we'll be actually answering questions at the end of the presentation, but we're encouraging everybody, as soon as you have a question, please do enter it into the chat box. If you don't have access to the chat box, please do write them down, email them, and to Morgan, I'm supposing. To CEI questions, CEI questions at girlscoutsww.org. We'll be answering as many questions as we can this evening. I'm also going to allow time between the sections of the presentation for you to think about what was just said and to enter questions into the chat box. But I'll give you a chance to actually ask them when you think of them instead of having to wait until the end, even though we'll answer all of them at the end. Okay, so now we're going to really get started. So I'm going to turn it over to Tara and Nicole.
Great. So let's talk about what exactly the Customer Engagement Initiative, or CEI, is. And what that is it's a streamlined operating model that will enable us to provide an easy, streamlined, and consistent way for girls, parents, and volunteers to participate and register and join Girl Scouts.
So we're now on slide 5. I would invite each of you listening to think about challenges that you've experienced or heard concerns about that are related to our current technologies and processes. And we'd like to share with you a couple of direct quotes related to our registration technologies. In the end, I spent nearly 3 hours renewing my 2 troops. Remember, these are volunteer hours, not paid hours. And I could have saved myself a lot of time and frustration. This is shared by a leader who is trying to register her troops.
And I think our service unit managers really sum it up the best when they talk about our registration system, when they say they really could not make this more difficult.
Next slide. Next slide, slide 7. What will the Customer Engagement Initiative do for Girl Scouts? So I imagine while there's probably a variety of reasons that you volunteer with Girl Scouts, a lot of them relate back to our mission to build girls with courage, confidence, and character that make the world a better place, and ultimately because you recognize the value of Girl Scouts. I think that we can all agree that for many years to come, we want to ensure that more girls are having a quality Girl Scout experience delivered by a growing number of well-prepared and supported volunteers. Ways that the Customer Engagement Initiative will help us accomplish this is with easy and quick sign-up for girls and volunteers and a greatly decreased troop placement time. Across the nation, we've seen an average of 5 weeks for a new volunteer to reach the placement point. In pilot councils, this has been decreased to just 1 week. We also will see faster troop placement with 24/7 access for families. Troop leaders will get information and resources customized to their needs and busy lives through the volunteer toolkit and an improved website. And it's a girl-focused, consistent experience, not only in our council, but also nationwide.
Next slide.
So on slide 8, we're really looking at kind of the 3 core pieces of this technology. So there's the volunteer toolkit and the website platform, which are both on the Adobe Experience platform. The website obviously is a brand new website, and the volunteer toolkit is connected with our website. And what that is a place that our leaders can log into and really see customized content to support their troop meeting year. And then there's the systems piece, which is Salesforce, and that's really the back-end database where our staff will be interacting with member and volunteer information. Next slide.
So that's the end of the initial section of the presentation. That's just the very basics, but if there are any questions that come to mind now, I really invite you to share them in the chat box. This is Kate again. We will be answering them at the end of the presentation. So I am going to give about 30 seconds of silence for everybody to think and enter things into the chat box. Okay. I'm also going to say welcome to the people who've just joined. We'll be sending out a recording of this presentation within the week, so hopefully tomorrow, so that you can hear it from the beginning. Okay, thank you for those of us who've started asking questions. We're going to move on now, and I'm going to turn it over to Megan Furland.
Evening, everybody, and I want to say thank you, too, for joining us this evening. The big question is, what are we talking about tonight? And obviously, it's the Customer Engagement Initiative. I think the question that is really going around the council is, why are we even considering doing this? Why are we talking about doing the Customer Engagement Initiative? And it's a very valid question. One answer is that this is a national effort by GSUSA in response to declining membership. But honestly, that's not true for us here at Girl Scouts of Western Washington. In a lot of ways, we're in a pretty good spot, thanks to an awful lot of hard work by all of you and your sister and brother volunteers across the council and our staff. We have gotten to a better place than we've been in many years, in terms of membership, in terms of our product sale, in terms of our camp season. By a lot of measures, we are doing better than we've been in a while. And really, though, while we're doing better, and that's awesome, when I really think about it, we are still, if we're honest about it, we are still not good enough. You guys deserve more than just better. Our girls deserve more than better. You all deserve for us to be amazing, and we are not too amazing yet. I think everyone would agree that there are things that are holding us back, and they are a lot of the things that the Customer Engagement Initiative will deal with. To be amazing, we have got to be easier to do business with. And in order to reach that goal, we identified 4 priorities during our strategic learning process that we wrapped up about 18 months ago. And the Customer Engagement Initiative directly addresses 2 of those priorities, seamless technology and flexible options. And by focusing on those 2 priorities, we will indirectly get to improvements in our other 2 priorities, diversity and strategic partnerships. And this slide here, on slide 11, this picture really is the representation of that. So if we have to go through the Customer Engagement Initiative, the next question that I was wrestling with, and that all of us were wrestling with, was, do we really have to do it now when we've gotten to this better spot? And the answer to that really is yes, we have to fix our technology. The technologies that we've been using here specifically for Girl Scouts of Western Washington are going away. And GSUSA has let it be known that the systems that they've been using will also be phasing out over the course of the next couple of years. Reality is it will be much better for us as a council to be in charge of our own fate, for us to be deciding when we make this transition rather than have Girl Scouts of the USA tell us, hey, you have to transition now. At this point, we are financially stable. We're in a strong position in terms of our staff and our volunteers, and it makes much more sense to do this kind of transition from a position of strength rather than having GSUSA dictate when we make the transition. The other reason that it is a very strategic time for us to make this shift is because we are in complete understanding about who we are and what we are committed to. And that was made abundantly clear in a conversation that we had at the board's meeting in November when we discussed the fact that our council, with our customer focus, is not in alignment with GSUSA's customer focus. GSUSA's customer focus is kindergarten through 5th grade. During our strategic learning process, our data showed us that we start losing girls in Western Washington at 4th grade, and we continue losing them through the 8th grade. But if we can keep them until their 9th grade year, then they'll stay with us through high school. And that's why our customer focus is 4th through 8th grade. We know from our data that that is where we need to be focused in order to best serve our membership here in Western Washington. And our board is so committed to what we need to do for our girls in our council that we're working on a letter right now that will go with a resolution from our board to the GSUSA board committing that, yes, we are serving girls K through 5, but we are committed to serving our middle school girls as well as our older girls because that's what we need to do for our council. The other reason that it makes a whole lot of sense for us to be doing this right now is because we have also been working for years to get to this point. If you go to slide 12, it illustrates what I'm talking about. Back in 2012, we did a volunteer and girl experience survey that showed us that our goals did not align with what our girls and our volunteers were experiencing. And honestly, it was a pretty bitter pill for us to swallow. As hard as we were working and as great a job as we want to do, to realize that we were not achieving what we wanted to achieve for our girls and our volunteers. But that was the truth, and that was the reality that we took into our strategic learning process in 2013. That's when we did a whole lot of work and research into what the demographics are across our Western Washington region. We looked at what other trends are in our council, what our stakeholders were saying, what our competitors were doing, what is happening with our own membership and our own council. All of that information is what we use to define those strategic priorities, and then we put those strategic priorities in front of a representative group of our volunteers, our C3 group, and they said, yes, those are the right 4 priorities for our council to be focused on. And as I said, that just wrapped up about 8 weeks. So those are still the right 4 priorities for us to be focused on. Another really key piece of work that we did in 2013 was a technology roadmap, where we worked with a group of consultants to interview staff and volunteers about the technology needs for our organization. And a final piece of really important work that we did in 2013 was when we changed our staffing to a regional structure to better support the customer service needs that we were hearing from our volunteers. In 2014, we also finished creating a project management office that started the work of implementing the technology changes that came out of that technology roadmap. They also started the work of defining the business requirements that we needed for a volunteer management system for our council. And they used that list of business requirements for a volunteer management system to look around for companies that could actually meet that list of needs. That's how we wound up talking to Salesforce. And Salesforce said, hey, you guys need to talk to GSUSA because we're talking to GSUSA about a similar project that we did for another council. And that's how we wound up being one of the first 5 councils that was working with GSUSA on this initial Salesforce tool that became the systems database piece that is one of these 3 parts of the customer engagement initiative. Carrying on into 2015, we're continuing the work of being one of the thought partners that are giving feedback to GSUSA on all of the technology needs across councils. And that's honestly how they wound up recognizing that councils have similar needs in terms of websites and volunteer toolkits. And that's what turned into this full-fledged customer engagement initiative that we're at the starting point of moving forward with. This will put us in the place of really improving the customer service experience that we have needed to do since we looked at our strategic learning process and identified those 4 priorities. It will put our girls and our volunteers first. Moving through it will be a huge change management effort. And we are very committed to moving through this with the best change management that we can provide. And that is a lot of support, both to staff and to volunteers, and a real commitment to communication. We have cross-functional project teams that will be literally working to design how we do this, what it will look like. We are providing change management training in a way that we've not done before, and we will be providing ongoing and consistent communication plans regarding the progress of the project as we move through it. The volunteer support and engagement is huge, as is evidenced by the fact that we're on this webinar today. We are creating a customer engagement initiative advisory committee of volunteers as an integral piece of this. That is one of the feedback channels that will be operating to inform project progress as we move through it. There will be user training that will also be an integral piece of this. Ultimately, what we're working toward is what we're focused on is how the customer engagement initiative can ultimately be the solution that will get us from good to amazing for our girls and volunteers across Western Washington. It's what you all deserve.
Okay, thank you, Megan. This is Kate again. Again, we're going to give you about 30 seconds or a little bit more to really think about Megan's part of the presentation and see if there are any questions that you have. If you do have them, please do enter them into the chat box. We'll be answering them at the end. And if you can't see the chat box, you can always send the questions to CEI questions@girlscoutsww.org. Okay. Now I'm going to turn it over to Nicole Franco, our Director of IT, and Tara Irvin, True Program Manager.
So on slide 14, this just reiterates the 3 different pieces of technology that we're going to give an overview of and kind of get more into details about. There's the volunteer toolkit, the new website platform, and then the back-end systems, which is Salesforce. Next slide. So here, the technology that we're adopting is Salesforce, and it's a technology that's really robust and used by huge corporations. Not only that, Salesforce is spending millions of dollars internationally on not only assessing what their customers' needs are, but making sure that their technology stays up to date with those needs. So the website platform, what is it? It's a brand new website. Some of the really cool things about it that's going to make things a lot easier on our customers is being able to find programs. We're going to have a real live program calendar. It's going to be in a calendar view. The other piece is that it's going to be streamlined across the nation. So as our volunteers and our members move from council to council, their website experience will be very similar within each council. So I wanted to show you a couple of examples of what the old website and the new website looks like. There's 2 councils that have gone live with this new website. Here you can see this council there before, and then you can see their after is much more organized and streamlined looking. And then Council of Appalachians, you can see here an example of their before and then their after on the new website as well. As you can see between the 2 councils, their after website is very streamlined looking. It's a very similar experience for our customers, no matter the council they're with. And on slide 19, you can see an example of the event calendar. So this is an example from one of the websites that's already live with the council. And you can see that the programs are displayed in a calendar view. When you click on the program that you're interested in, on the right you'll see here, it opens up a description of that program and links directly to online registration for that event. Next slide.
Hi everyone, this is Tara again. I wanted to talk to you about a piece that I'm particularly excited about, and that's the volunteer toolkit. So this is a customized login area that's connected to the website, and it enables troop leaders to find and use resources to plan their year-end activities. All co-leaders share access to their troop planning area so they can connect with each other, and they can also use it as a tool to communicate out with parents and guardians of members in the troop. The toolkit is mobile and tablet friendly, just like the website, so there's on-the-go access anytime, anywhere. It can be used during or at troop meetings or when you're out shopping or on the go in your car. So we have a couple of screenshots for you on the next slide, number 21. We have, this is a screenshot of the year plan. So there are 15 meeting pre-populated year plans by grade level. At this time it is limited to Daisy, Brownie, and juniors. But there are 2 journey options, It's Your World and It's Your Planet, as well as 1 badge work year that leaders can choose from. There's also multiple troop capability, so if a leader has more than 1 troop, they can select which troop they want to be customizing and working with, and have access to 2 separate plans and areas for each of their troops. On the next slide, it dials down into the meeting plan, which there are printable, downloadable meeting aids and resources such as material lists and templates for various activities that a leader might want to do during a troop meeting. They can also set out the schedule for the meeting and rearrange that. So again, this is pre-populated, but then it can be customized based on what the leader wants to, how they want to lay out their year. Next slide. The systems part, as Nicole said earlier, is really the back-end database that's really Salesforce driven. What it is really a comprehensive system. So it's taking over for our current lead management system where our placement lists come from, and it's also going to be replacing aspects of eBiz or Personify. So this is where we have the interest form, the online membership registration, the volunteer application, and the background check. This means that new volunteers are not bounced around or lost in the process. Troop placement moves to an online opportunity catalog that has 24/7 access for families. There's easier renewal for troops and volunteers, and automated reports are sent by the system to some volunteers.
So now we're going to kind of give a quick snapshot, take a peek at what this new system looks like. So I'm a new adult volunteer, and I want to volunteer with Girl Scouts. So I'm going to go to the Girl Scouts of Western Washington website, and I'm going to fill out an interest form by getting started. Next slide. So on slide 25, you can see here that I fill out my interest form, and then I can see, I can pull up actual volunteer opportunities online for me to sign up for on the spot. And I can pull up those opportunities based on search parameters that I type in. I can search from 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, however far I want to travel to volunteer from my house. So then after I select my volunteer opportunity, I fill out the adult registration form, and yes, it is now only one page, much more simplified. Once I fill out that adult volunteer form and hit submit, what's going to happen is I'll go through the get approved process, and what that means really is that Salesforce is going to send me an automated email with a link to my background check form. I click on that link, I fill the form out online, and then Salesforce tracks whether or not that background check has been completed, and will send me reminder emails until I get that background check complete. And then after that, I check out and purchase my membership, and I'm good to go as a volunteer. Next slide. So now I'm going to look at it from a parent perspective, or from the girl perspective. Again, I want to join Girl Scouts, so I'm going to the website, and I'm going to get started by filling out the interest form. Next. After that, I'm directed to the opportunity catalog. And what this is basically a one-stop shopping for Girl Scout troop opportunities. I sign up online right on the spot, again, searching for troops available in my area based on the parameters that I chose. And I can see in the opportunity catalog where the troop's meeting, what time they're meeting at, and how many spots they currently have available, along with whether or not they need volunteers to help out with that troop. I select my opportunity and hit next. Next slide. So on slide 29, you'll see kind of a snapshot of what the registration form looks like. This is where the girl will actually fill out her membership registration. Next slide. And then I'll check out. The checkout process is much easier to understand for our customers. So you'll see in step 1 on slide 30 that I get an overview of what I'm purchasing. On step 2, I then fill out my credit card information and confirm that that's my credit card information. The system verifies it's correct, and then it will ask me to actually process my charges in step 3, clearly indicating that I'm purchasing a membership online. And next slide. So that's an overview of what the system online will look like in the membership and volunteer registration process. I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Martinez and Helen Allen.
Actually,
sorry, go ahead.
before we get to that, we're going to take another 30-second break so people can really get their questions. The questions are flying fast and furious now, which is fantastic. We hope you keep that up. We're going to give you 30 seconds to share everything that you're thinking of right now as far as questions go, and we'll give you 30 seconds to do that right now. Okay, it's been 30 seconds. I'm loving all the questions that are coming in. Please keep them going. I'm going to turn this over to Sarah Martinez, our episodic volunteer manager, and Helen Allen, our director of business services for Bigger Than Technology.
All right, thanks, Kate. This is Sarah Martinez talking now. So we're going to get a second here to talk about how some of these changes are bigger than technology. And as I go into this, it may seem like some of these changes, these bigger than technology changes, are being made to support this technology. But in reality, it's kind of well past time that we change our processes right alongside this. If you think about when a lot of our processes were set up, for example, if you as a Girl Scout leader, back when a lot of these were set up, wanted to reach the council with a question, you sent in a letter and you hoped to hear back in about 3 to 4 weeks. So that's not so much the case now. And Kate, if you could bring us to the next slide. We should be on slide 32 now for those of you following along via PDF. So nowadays, people are in constant contact with folks all around the world. And one of the things about updating our processes right now is that we get the benefit of GSUSA having been partnering with councils all across the country to create new consistent processes that will work for today's volunteers and families. That means that if someone is transferring from one side of our council to the other or transferring from our council to New York, they'll have a consistent experience, which is what people expect when they're interacting with a national organization like ours. We also get to be one of the councils selected to give feedback to GSUSA and have some influence over future decisions and where this initiative heads. But we're not the first council to go live with this and to launch. So we get to use the best practices that are developed from other councils who are already on this to make our rollout go even smoother. Some other things that we're going to want to keep in mind as we move ahead with this project. We're going to need to be creative and flexible with how we move forward with our work. Like Megan mentioned earlier, not all of our strategic initiatives align with GSUSA. So our work as a council is going to really have to reflect those differences. So, for example, as it was mentioned earlier, Volunteer Toolkit supports K through 5 program levels, where we've said that we really want to be providing support to girls and troops and families in 4th through 8th grade. So our work really needs to be geared towards making sure that those folks are getting a solid foundation from us as well. And now I'm going to pass it over to Helen.
Okay, next slide, please. Hi, this is Helen, and I get to talk with you about a couple of the aspects that I'm most excited about. I don't know if you've personally experienced this, but our feedback from volunteers and parents has been that phone calls and emails get bounced around from staff member to staff member, and that it takes too long to get an answer to questions. So the customer care team is the solution to these issues. It's a single point of contact with staff members who can answer 80% of incoming questions on the very first contact. The customer care staff have the answers pre-developed and at their fingertips, so any question can be answered quickly and correctly. A subject matter expert within each department writes or vets these solutions, which then become accessible to all staff and can be updated at any time with current and accurate information. Next slide, please. As you've already seen, the Opportunity Catalog is a pre-populated listing of all available troops. This is a self-service model with 24/7 availability. Parents can select the troop for their daughter on their time when it's convenient for them. Volunteers and staff no longer place girls in troops. It is essential that the Opportunity Catalog be robust. Every family should be able to see something in the catalog that works for them. We can't expect families to continually check the catalog to see if something new is available. So we'll need to set up new troops and enter existing troops that have openings in them in advance of our recruitment efforts. There will also be the availability for staff to see if people are stuck in the system and reach out proactively to help them. Right now, this is built out mainly for joining a troop, but future build-outs will include other opportunities such as events and camps. And back to Sarah.
Okay. So, volunteer placement works in a similar system. They will also be selecting their available opportunities through the Opportunity Catalog. So troop volunteers will have the same self-service model with the same 24/7 availability. And volunteers will be able to select and apply for a role when it is convenient for them. Volunteers going through this process will fill out their application, complete their background check, and pay for their membership all in one seamless process. This means that a volunteer won't need to keep track of multiple logins just to complete this initial volunteer process. There will also be the ability for staff to see if people are stuck anywhere in the system and reach out proactively to help them out. Right now, this is built out mainly for volunteering within a troop, but future build-outs are going to include other opportunities such as events, camps, and learning opportunities. So to wrap up, again, it might feel like we're making a lot of these changes to support the technology, but what we really want to emphasize is that the technology is only underlying the support for the way we need to update our business. And now I'm going to pass it back to Kate.
Okay, so we're still getting questions, which is fantastic. We're going to allow a few, maybe half a minute for people to think on what they've heard and go ahead and enter questions. We've also had a request that we slow down and that people are trying to take notes. We're actually running short on time. We only have 15 minutes more, and we have a whole nother section to do, and we want to make sure we can answer everybody's questions. We are trying to go slow, and we will continue to try to go slow, but we're going to try to also stick within our time so we can answer questions. And this is also recorded, and we're going to send out the link so everybody can hear it again. Okay, I think we're going to get started again, and I'm going to pass it on to Leanne Stivers, our Project Management Officer.
Good evening, everyone. I know that this is a lot of information, and so we're so thankful that you're all on the call today. We want to talk a little bit about how we're going to be moving this work forward. So I'm going to give you a very high-level project overview, but I promise this is not the last time that you're going to be hearing from me. So that's my commitment to you as we work through this process. Next slide. So, the biggest question out there is, why are we doing this, and then when is this going to happen? So I listed on here our estimated live dates for the 3 pieces of technology we're talking about this evening. It's important to note that these are subject to change. We are working within a team that's working with GSUSA on when our live dates will be for systems. And so the commitment that GSUSA has made to us is that by mid-February, they will select our team's launch date. So we made recommendations on the best possible times for our council, and then we're going to wait to hear on the announcement as far as the actual live dates. To date, this is what we know and we think is pretty close to schedule, so we wanted to share it out. The website is estimated for launch on June 1st. The volunteer toolkit will follow shortly after that on June 15th, and systems going live July 31st. Again, these are subject to change, and we will keep you updated as soon as we have our final live dates to share with staff and our volunteer community. Next slide. So what does this mean? How do we move this forward? As it's been mentioned, we have a variety of different teams helping move this work forward within the council. We have over 90 staff included in project teams. We're dedicated to making sure that we handle communications a little bit different than some of our changes that we've done in the past. So over February and March, we'll be kicking off those project teams to be discussing pieces that need to move within the project plan and engaging staff in those conversations as well as volunteers. We are going to continue to be a GSUSA Thought Partner Council, which means that we're going to, as we are moving towards our live date, we are also working towards future builds for the technology, which means that we will still participate in those conversations moving forward and continue to guide the efforts that GSUSA is looking towards as the infrastructure for the technology continues to grow. Additionally, we're committed to volunteer and staff communications. So they're going to be, at the end of this week, actually last week we met with our staff team and made announcements around the customer engagement initiative. This week we're focused on volunteer communications. And at the end of this week we will wrap and create talking points that will be distributed to everyone on this webinar as well as all of our staff. And those will include talking points regarding what is the customer engagement initiative and its benefits, frequently asked questions that have been sent in from staff and also volunteers. So many of the questions that are included in today's webinar that we don't get to, we will absolutely roll into the frequently asked questions. And I would like to call out that there are things within this project, because we are in the early phases, that we don't know. So we're going to call out those specific questions so that staff and volunteers can see some of those pieces that we're still working through. We're also going to be sharing the major milestones within the project, and that will be included in that CEI toolkit you'll be receiving via email. Additionally, we want to have some face-to-face time. We appreciate the webinar format, and we know that email communication is great, but we also know that we need to get in front of our volunteers and talk to you guys. So once we have the live date settled and we have a final plan on that, we want to go out into the community and start having volunteer town hall meetings. The announcements for these will be coming in the next couple weeks, and the dates will be distributed through the the regional newsletters. So more TBD dates on those, but we'll have that information out to you shortly. Additionally, we have posted for the Volunteer Advisory Committee in early January, and we've created an application process for participants to be included in that team. That team is working through that application process. We'll have the team finalized and communicated to in the coming weeks, and their first kickoff meeting will be late February, early March. So more details on that team will be coming to you shortly. Next slide. We know that as we move through this, we need to provide feedback channels for all of you to ask questions. So, and a first basic effort for that is we created an email address to address things outside of meetings. We know that you all are working and volunteering in different hours of the day. So this feedback channel is live for you whenever you need it. Please feel free to send your questions, your comments, your concerns regarding customer engagement initiative. The project team is behind this email account and will be responding and communicating all updates with staff and volunteers through this email account. Next slide. So we know we're going fast and it's a lot of content, but we did want to give you some takeaways for this conversation. We hope that you've seen and we've displayed some ways in which the CEI, Customer Engagement Initiative, is going to be a quick and easy way for girls to sign up. We feel that this is going to be a consistent experience that will decrease troop leader onboarding time. There are going to be some staffing adjustments that are going to be shared as we learn what we need as we implement the technology and change the way that we work. Our commitment to the volunteer community is that we will be keeping you updated on what that looks like, and you should be hearing more from us late spring, early summer on those changes. Again, we're committed to providing technical training for our volunteers and our staff for this movement. So we know that there's been frustrations in the past when we have done a technology change. So we're committed to making sure that we have an avenue for that. And then we also want to really highlight the fact that we have a volunteer advisory committee helping support this work and a community across Western Washington that will be providing feedback and also they will have volunteers on there that will be advocating and sharing communications as we learn more about the Customer Engagement Initiative. So I just want to call those out. I'm going to turn it over to Kate at this time.
Okay. So I think because we're running a little bit low on time and I want to make sure we answer as many questions as possible, I'm going to go ahead and start the question and answer section. Please do continue to put your questions in the chat box. We're going to answer as many as we can, and if we can't get to any, we will be sending out an email with all of the questions and answers so that you can have it all in one place. And the other thing I should say is that we're answering these questions in real time, so if we need to do some research on a question or if an answer hasn't been determined yet, we're going to be saying that. So I'm actually going to go through them pretty much in order, and we're just going to have volunteers from around the table here from the presenters, and they're going to answer as they know the answer. So I'm going to go up to the top. So the first question that was asked was, what will happen to records of background check? Will everyone have to do one again?
So this is Leanne Stivers. We will be moving to a new criminal background check vendor with this change in technology. We have not selected that vendor at this time. We are in conversations and getting quotes, which means that we will need to be doing criminal background check updates and record updates. because we're moving to a new vendor. So details on what that's going to look like, the impact that that would have on the volunteer community and when are still TBDs, but I do want to be upfront and honest that we will be moving to a new criminal background check vendor.
Let's see, does systems also include the online registration for workshops for adults or activities for girls?
This is Helen. The original rollout does not include registration for events or anything like that. It is only for troop. However, they are working on a version 2 right now that will include that, and so we don't know for sure if it will be live by the time we go live, but we are expecting it to be.
Okay. All right. I've also heard that we're trying to move the microphone around so everyone can hear, but I've gotten feedback that that is not working all that great. So we're going to try to just speak more clearly and loudly, but let us know if that's not working. The next question is, and this is Kate, will it be obvious if you're registering as an adult or a girl member?
This is Nicole. So what I've seen of the system, it's pretty clear the adult process is definitely very different looking. The steps that you go through are very different looking. It's labeled adult membership registration as opposed to girl member registration. So hopefully that clarifies. But if you have more specifics that you want to know about, just email that CEI email address and we can get into more detail.
Yeah, just to be clear, that email address is CEIquestions@girlscoutsww.org. The next question is, will there still be some kind of training for new volunteers before they can start being a volunteer or leader?
This is Leanne Stivers. We're still working through the details of the volunteer onboarding process, and that is a TBD at this point. I don't have follow-up on that at this moment.
The next question is, what does the family do if they're trying to join a new troop that isn't in the opportunity list just yet?
This is Nicole again. Really that's a process decision that we have to discuss as a council and something that will come out later on.
I don't know what this question means, but does it work if you know which troop you are joining? Can you identify? I think the question is, can you identify in the catalog?
This is Tara. So in the opportunity, or for troops that are already existing, they have the choice whether to participate in the opportunity catalog or not. And as you've heard, some of the process details need to be worked out with that. But girls can still join troops, existing troops. I don't know if that answers the question or not.
I think the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay. Volunteer toolkit, does it have a calendar? Is it similar to Scoutlander?
This is Sarah. It does have a calendar. You can see everything you've input in calendar format. I have never been on Scoutlander, so I don't know how much it looks like that, but it does have calendar functionality in it.
So they pay and a troop never forms. It says what happened, but I think it's what happens.
This is Nicole. Again, that's really a business process impact and decision that we have to make as a council that we honestly don't have an answer for right now.
Kate again, what happens if the family is completely new to Girl Scouts and doesn't have any idea what troop they should select?
This is Sarah again. There will be a team set up that can see if people have stopped anywhere in the system. So if they got to this point and didn't go any further, didn't select anything, a staff member can reach out as soon as they see that and help them through the rest of it.
This is Kate. Will we be able to cross into other councils to register for their events, or will we only be able to access our own council?
This is Tara. We'll only have access to events within our own council.
Okay, this is a long one. I'm going to try to shorten it. What happens when a troop wants to form in a school and they can handle 8 girls and they have 8 girls identified that want to join? If their troop is entered into the opportunity database, there may be situations where girls that have never been in contact with a leader sign up for that troop and think they're in.
And I think this is Tara again. It goes back to establishing those business processes and looking at the variety of ways that we know that troops form and girls join troops, and so exploring what those needs are and coming up with processes to support that.
Okay, this is Kate again. I've found that some volunteers, not me, this person has found that some volunteers want an in-person contact. They don't tend to go and sign up for volunteer opportunities online where there still be in-person recruiting.
This is Leanne Stivers. We are not losing the fact that we understand that we're a community-focused organization. So while we've been talking a lot about technology today, these are tools that we're going to be using, but we will still have staff resources and, of course, volunteer efforts to help with that moving forward.
Yeah, follow-up there. Okay. All right, next question. Can leaders determine the number of girls they're inviting to have in a troop? Can leaders determine the number of girls they are inviting to have in a troop, or they can have in a troop?
Tara, and yes.
We have reached our time, but I think we're going to continue answering questions for a few minutes. We're going to go 5 minutes over, and we're going to continue answering questions. Feel free to stay on or drop off. We will be sending out all of these questions with answers in writing. So next question, where does the connection to the service unit begin? That might be a bigger question.
What they're saying is, when does the service unit find out about the troop so that the service unit managers, et cetera, know?
So this is Tara, and if we're understanding this question correctly, and if we're not, again, the email CEI questions@girlscoutsww.org would be a place that you can rephrase the question. Service unit. So that's still a process, but service units are still involved. There's still service unit support for new volunteers that are coming on board, and service unit involvement in that process. So exactly how that looks is still something that needs to be determined.
Do service units receive the info from opportunity catalogs?
So at this time, service unit volunteers will not have access to the database. There won't be licenses provided for volunteers. It will just be staff. But what we do have the ability to do within the Salesforce technology that we haven't been able to have necessarily is a really great output of reports that we can be emailing or, using a document storage place to be putting these things so that our service units volunteers have a place to access that information and those records, which that's something, if you talk to a staff member currently right now, we struggle with immensely. So we're very excited about the reporting functionality of the system.
What is keeping a 4th grade parent from putting a girl into a 2nd grade troop and then show up expecting a troop to help them?
Well, the system, when the girl registers on the registration form, it asks for information that verifies their birth date and grade. At that point, the system will only pull troop opportunities based on that information.
How well tested is this? Digital Cookie hasn't been that great.
This is Sarah. So there are already 7 councils that are live on this system, and then there's a whole nother group of councils that are launching in the next couple of months here that will go live before us. So it will be tested in real world, and as I think Morgan put in the chat window earlier, we also have a testing period here at our council before we go live. So it'll be a pretty robust testing group.
Next question. If parents can place their girl and join a troop, what about exchange of info that usually occurs, such as dues and questions parents may have?
This is Tara. So when a girl or family selects a troop, that information gets added to the troop roster in the volunteer toolkit, which is where that troop management piece lives. And so then the leader would be able to contact that family to answer any questions they might have and make sure that that troop's a good fit.
So renewals will be in our current system? I'm not sure quite what that means.
This is Helen. If I'm understanding the question correctly, if we're talking about the early renewals for next year or the re-registration that we usually do that with a deadline of mid-June, yes, I would expect that that would be in our current system because we won't be live with the new system yet at that time.
But once we're live with the new system, renewals will be in Salesforce.
Correct. The system would manage renewals moving forward.
Okay, I'm going to change the way this is phrased a little bit, so it's phrased as a question. How will we keep the troop opportunities accurate and up to date? What is there, people will just decide not to join if they see nothing available, question mark. What is there to stop these people and put them on a waiting list?
This is Tara. So this is where the importance of having a really robust catalog comes into play, and staff partnering with service unit volunteers and community members to determine what those needs are and building that out. So processes as far as specifically when or how troops get added to the catalog or identifying opportunities for building out new troops, those need to be determined, but we know that that work will be ongoing.
Can the town halls not be during cookie season?
Yes.
Last question. Will troop registration deadline remain the same for June since the go live is in June? Go live. I think that means renewal go live. I don't know what that means. Is that the cookie deadline you're talking about to get the sense?
Yeah, we're talking about the re-registration deadline.
Yeah.
And at this point, I anticipate that it will be similar to what it has been in the past, but we're just starting to talk about that. So as soon as that's decided, we'll let you know.
Okay. It looks like one more person is typing in a message, potentially. Nope. And I think Elise was, I think this is a joke from Elise, but she asked, will there be an I don't know button? Thank you for,
I don't know. Is she?
Elise, you can correct me
Not a joke.
if I'm understanding this. Are you asking if there will be an I don't know which troop I want to join button
in the
in the catalog? Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. So,
Sorry.
so I started paraphrasing that question, then realized.
No, she's right. She's saying yes,
okay.
yes, yes.
Yeah. So I believe there is, yes, the option to select an I don't know. But the rest of my team is now looking at me like perhaps.
I don't know that to be true.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought.
I don't know that to be true. So that's something that we would have to, we'll have to look into that for you. As far as it being an actual I don't know button, I really don't know about that. As far as the other avenues to go into different places and how that lives, we'd have to follow up. Those are details that we don't have at the table right now.
And I would just add that if they do get in there and they don't know what troop to select or there's confusion and they don't move forward in that process, again, with this system, staff will be able to easily identify those people and reach out to them to provide the support that they need.
Perfect. So we've gone over even our overtime, so I think we're going to end it at that point. Again, we will be sending out communication by the end of the week with all of these questions and answers and a link to the recording of this web conference.